We're back here at the Nexon Arena, and we got something new for you guys. A little bit of an interview with Bjall, or that's not Bjall, that's Björn and Solar on the left. Kind of mixing the two names together.
One letter off.
Yeah. And one of these guys is their player. One of them a Terran. No Protoss here, but two very popular players that we've had in the SSL.
Really need no introduction, of course. Solar played in Premier, was defending finalist. Björn will play in promotions. So first off, let's talk to Solar. You played against Dark last season. Now you're looking at your teammates' stats. Feels a little bit different to play to be here as an audience member instead of a finalist, but it does still enjoy watching the games. It does feel very fun. So Solar, you're one of the players that gave Dark the most trouble. Any advice for stats?
백인재에서 저와 함께 경기를 지켜보는 내내 김대엽 선수의 수비에 좀 감탄을 금치 못하는 모습이었습니다.
Well, he says stats is really great to begin with, so I don't really need to give him any advice. I've already given him all the help I can give him.
네.
프로토스는 항상 세고 사기이기 때문에 당연히 우승하지 않을까 싶네요.
Solar says, I expect this to go to Game 7, but that's because Protoss is so broken, so OP. Nicholas Solar, he's ahead though.
It's been a long time for you as well. Yeah. So I didn't know they had challenge players in here. But he was let in tonight.
근데 오늘은 테란전이 아니어서 좀 조언해줄 수 있는 말이 많지는 않으셨을 것 같은데.
You may not be a Zerg player, but do you have any advice?
프로게이머 프로토스 분들이랑 공유를 너무 많이 하셔가지고 프로토스 프로게이머들이 약간 영어랑 연습하기를 꺼려하더라고요. 그래서 많이 스트레스를 받았는데 제가 연습 상대를 구해줬어요.
네.
고맙다는 말 한마디.
Dark is a very popular player, but a bunch of Protoss players are intimidated of Dark. So I actually helped him out by finding him some Protoss practice partners. Dark has lost sets 1 and 3. What do you think of the series so far, Björn? He says Dark is used to these kinds of situations. He says, I wonder why Dark isn't going for more all-ins, because he's great at that. Although I do feel like starting with Game 4, we will probably see a macro game out of Dark. As for predictions, he says, today I'm not a player, I am a fan, so I just want to see Game 7. Final words for the players. Solar says, stats, please win quickly and buy me something delicious afterwards. Obviously, there's two guys on the same team. Some friendly words from Solar to his Splice brother.
So we are in a world now where Stats takes a lead. For most predictions of Korean analysts to come true, Dark will have to win now 3 games in a row to take the 4-2. It's the most common prediction. We will see, though, if it comes to fruition, as in terms of defensive play against the aggression, I don't agree with Björn in terms of what he was saying about all-ins. I would have going into this best of 7, but after what we've seen tonight, I think you need to move away from that and go to your strength that we saw in the late game there on Abyssal Reef.
Yeah, I agree with game number 1, all-in from Dark, but I don't like game number 3. How he played it, how he got stuck into that position, how Stats took advantage of him. You know, Stats is proving that he is a harder Protoss opponent so far for Dark compared to Deer, compared to Classic. And this is going to be a game that really sets the tone. Do we continue with the tying, you know, 1-1, 2-2, or does Stats take a big leap into the lead? We're going to jump into Odyssey for game number 4 and find out.
때까지는 끝난 것이 아니다.
Here we are on Odyssey for game number 4. And down in the bottom right, this is Splice's very own Stats.
And to the top left, in purple, it is Dark. Needs to find a way back into this series now. So we're only one game behind, and there's still a lot of depth to be shown. We have larger maps coming in. Odyssey, of course, one of our smaller ones, but we'll have Whirlwind and Frost, as you were talking about. That Game 7 is going to be on that almost neutral 1v1-esque Fight Me on Final Destination map of Overgrowth. I think there's a lot of different tactics Dark could use there. But surviving this map, I think, is going to be very important, so that he doesn't have to fight on those larger maps where he can show that macro style again, where he's facing match point against him. Mentality-wise, it's very difficult to recover from. I'm a big fan here with some of those SSL pins.
Saying Vacation with Jin Air, StarCraft 2 with SSL, and the win, obviously, goes to King Dark. So...
yeah, he had the Kerrigan pin there. They had the Dark emblems. Looks like we're going to see potentially a gold fast expand. You're not the first time we've seen this.
See a little smirk on his face as he did that too. I don't know what's going on there.
This was the map we saw the attempted Colossus drop with whatever else you want to call that game. It was a little bit weird. But he is going to go into the Cybercore at home. Dark is not drone scouting, so won't know about this for a while. And in fact, last time he faced this against Classic, he was able to defend it and defeat it, which is what led him here in the final map there that brought him to this Grand Finals. But it did take him a long time to scout it and identify it, but because this isn't the first time you've seen this build, that he's seen this build, then he should be able to identify it quickly. However, with slow overlords coming across the map, no matter what, it's going to take him a while to even be able to get that information to, okay, Natural's missing, I need to check that gold base.
Yeah, it's one of these maps where you can get away with this, you know. It's not like Overgrowth where the overlords come on in super quick, and a lot of Zerg players not even bothering to drone scout nowadays. You might see it more often on a map like this where Protoss can sneak this over, but we are going to see the recall right as the Mothership core does come out. That timing is impeccable, and he will begin mining on that gold base as soon as possible.
So the recall, of course, guys, is so that the probes get there in the fastest possible time and they don't actually pass by that Overlord, which would have spotted them right there had the recall not been used. It's expensive in terms of Mothership energy, but the value is very high. Now, you will see that there's not only no wall here, but in just a moment, no natural, and that should tip him off. He should send a drone or one of his firstlings immediately to check for the gold bases. Overlord Scout will be denied here, which is huge too, because even though it's insanely rare, we have seen one-base DT builds, for example. And so now he just needs to play safe. He's going to make a lot of lings and a Baneling Nest. If he's thinking this is going to be used defensively, I'm worried. Aggressively can also be tough, though, with the wall that we see here.
He needs to go for a drop, right? But there's no Overlord over there. I guess he's just going for the front, perhaps? But as I say, that Ling's going up towards the top, and you do have to wall off both sides, and that is extremely hard. So here we go. Ling's already coming on in, but a nice surround, and the Lings only get 2 probes.
It's okay. That's a pretty good trade for Stats, especially because he didn't use the overcharge. So it looks like we are going to set up for potentially that drop into the main. He's being a little bit indecisive here. This wall is tightened up. Going to hit this again. Overcharge available. Only 1 pylon. But with no Banelings at this moment in time, is going to be okay with that right now. The second pylon, of course, part of the wall to the north.
Oh, he's going for the main. He's given up on that gold. I don't think he's going to commit here.
I don't think so either.
I think he just wants to force an overcharge and then say, okay, here we go, Banelings towards the main. They have been morphed, and they are going to go for that pylon. An immense amount of Lings are ready at the waiting.
No sentry here.
And the Adept's even taking some damage too in the immediate surround on the Adept. and it looks like this break at the wall is going to be nice.
He has no mothership here, just trying to use his mineral walking to actually save these probes for the time being. Recall of what little he has at that base,
boy.
but the only defense of that base was going to be not the probe, the one immortal, and the sentry, but it was going to be the pylon overcharges. But the main base, that was not possible. So many probes going down here. He will eventually save this natural, but the damage has been done. Now he doesn't have the overcharge at the gold base. So what can he use to defend here? That's the big problem. He's going to warp in an Adept and a Sentry.
Well, the beginning of this hold was not very nice, but the force fields have been on point. The Sim City at the gold is helping him hold on. This game is not over yet. It's looking pretty grim for Stats, but let's see. The Banelings are going to come on through.
Okay, he doesn't actually get the Sentry too. The Sentry living is so important. The probes live as well. He will get a force field fairly soon. Might be another overcharge ready in just a moment as well. Where's that force field? Doesn't look like he has it. The Baneling's not exploding here.
That's really good, actually. He saves almost all of those probes, and the Lings coming on in. They are going to be fought back by the Zealot that was warped in. And look at this. Stats stays alive.
He's got enough for an overcharge now as well. Third base is empty. More and more units coming out here. No drones, no economy. It's all on the all-in. It's all on this attack. And so far, this has not worked for Dark in this series. I know he feels threatened. He feels he has to do this because of the gold base. But there were other options. And even though it looked grim, as you say, for Stats, the crisis management is yet again good enough. Will break through this pylon. Yet again, no sentry here.
It's taking a while. Okay, he goes for that gateway that was pretty low. Gets another surround. Looks like this time the Immortal is going to go down. What can Stats do to defend his main this time? He's going to rely on another sentry and one more recall to go for it.
Okay, but so many of those units taking damage during the recall. The Overlord is so important. The force field goes down, but now that the recall is here, Dark comes over. Not enough units. Looks like Stats is finally starting to fall apart.
There's a hole in the wall, and I think that's going to be the nail.
GG.
That does it. GG. Dark takes him back with another all-in.
What a back and forth that game was, but Dark had confidence that if he kept playing tennis with the energy of that Mothership core, forcing the recalls, meaning there weren't overcharges, constantly making that overcharge used early, constantly baiting those energies out, the recalls, the overcharges, meant that it could defend both bases at once against the hypermobile army of Dark with those Lings, the Banelings. And there were definitely moments of real fear on both sides there as Stats started to stabilize. I feel like if he had enough gas, which I don't know if he did, the one way he could have really defended that was making sure he had a sentry at the top of his main ramp, because that means that those Banelings never come through.
Very true. It seemed like he was committing all of his sentry and gas units over towards the gold, which, you know, I don't blame him. You're going to get more mining over there, but as you say, even just one sentry buys you so much time at your main ramp. So here we are. As I said, it really does push this series into a certain direction. We're tied up once again. Stats was not able to take that big lead, and it's off the back of an all-in, which is always hard to deal with.
All right, we're going to now Whirlwind. Whirlwind and Frost, two maps that Dark has shown several different types of all-ins on. We've seen Swarm Host, we've seen Roach all-ins on Whirlwind, we've seen all sorts of crazy timings out of this player. You would think, just by the nature of the map, this would be a map where we see late game, but that's not how Dark likes to play it. Likes to be aggressive here, and he's shown an insanely high win rate on these maps, despite the fact that they're played very less often than the other maps.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. So guys, we're going to be jumping into Whirlwind right now for game number 5 of Stats versus Dark.
앞서 나간다는 것. 이길 준비는 끝났다.
The game begins at horizontal spawns on Whirlwind, down in the bottom right. The Protoss player suffering a loss in game 4. This is Stats.
His opponent to the bottom left, executing that Ling attack very well to tie up the series. It is Dark. And these spawning locations were the exact ones that Dark defeated Deer on Whirlwind with the Roach all-in when Deer tried to go for the DT opening. Will the game play out the same way this time? I don't think so. Stat's a very different player, more orthodox player than Deer is in terms of openings and builds.
I think the scouts actually turned out the same way, though. Dark gets the early scout with his Overlord, and Stats does scout the incorrect direction. I think this is exactly what happened in that game. Not 100% sure, but would be kind of funny if that is true. So Dark definitely has that available, that option available to him. He said in interviews, in public interviews here in where we are standing right now, Wolf, casting. He was talking to Hyungung, and he said, I don't like to play on Whirlwind. I like to go for all-ins, and even though I'm giving away information, that's just the way it is. And it would be funny if Dark is going to take multiple games in this series as just, I need to all-in this guy.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable in macro. It's kind of like echoing what Byun was saying. I'm really good at all-in, so I might as well do some. But I'm just not sure. You know, Whirlwind is still a big map. Even if you're not comfortable on it, you showed that you can go in a big, long macro game up against Stats in game number 2 on Abyssal Reef. Maybe this is the time to mix it up again, because if you keep on doing all-ins, then Stats is going to start reading into that.
Certainly. I think that there's a lot of different things you could do on this map, and it's very difficult, actually, to play carriers the same way that Stats did on Abyssal Reef on this map, because the map is so wide open. The Zerg can move a lot more freely, whereas on the other maps, carriers coming on the edge where the Hydras can't get into range. It's tough to get the Corruptors there without storms going down. The Zerg has the free reign of the ground on this map, so perhaps that would be the way that Dark wants to play us. The other side of the coin, of course, is that Oracle play is very strong in the early game because the bases for Zerg are so far apart. Getting your creep spread to defend them, taking that fourth base and protecting it against the Oracles that we saw force a cancel there on Abyssal. That's the challenge. That's the tough part. And if you're worried in that stage of the game, I think that that's why we sometimes see these all-ins.
Yeah, don't get us started on the 5th and 6th bases as well. You know, like we saw that on Abyssal Reef multiple times from Dark. He doesn't do well against the Zealot harassment, the late game, you know, DT Zealot harassments that come in. And on a map like this where your bases are even further spread out, he will definitely have some trouble. So Stats, he's going to start off pretty standard here. It is going to be the Stargate into Oracle, which does get scouted, whereas Dark is stopping on 28 workers, and he's making a bunch of Zerglings already, but he does switch back into some drones.
Yeah, looks like he wants to play a longer game here. Spore Crawler's coming up. Just the one Stargate for now. We'll see if a Void Ray pops out after that Oracle. With additional gateways, seems less likely. It's a Phoenix, in fact, that will be shown here to the Overlord. Gateways unscouted thus far, but will probably be seen before the Overlord is killed. No Twilight Council. Let's see how this build fleshes out. We don't know exactly how this will be played just yet. Feels like an older style right now. Some early Legacy, some Heart of the Swarm Phoenix-esque play here. Okay, so Stasis Ward will catch the larva. That's the most important part. And no matter what, you can pull your drones, but you can't save the larva, which is one of the reasons why that will likely be changed in PTR. I'm sad about it, because I think it really limits the value of early game Oracles, but I know Zergs are probably feeling the opposite.
Yeah, I'm sure they're pretty happy about it.
We will see the Oracles cleaned up here. Gateways do get scouted, as mentioned by the Overlord. Robo as well.
Yeah, everything is scouted here by Dark, even without the Overlord speed, which is very nice. So sometimes it is hard to get that big scout on a big map like this. We'll not see the follow-up of Twilight into Forge, but at least he does see the Robo. And we'll even see the third base coming down here.
I wonder what kind of game this will become. Because like we were talking about earlier with the open map, see a transfuse? Nope. So with the open map, it's a little bit tough to make Stargate play, successful mass Stargate play, for example. So Robo coming up Twilight and Forge. This is going to be a map we see Colossi, potentially Disruptors. Very difficult to use Disruptors on that same sort of open maps setup, obviously, because they're difficult to protect. No choke points, no ramps they can hide behind. Looks like for the time being, we're headed towards Charge Cell at Archon, but We'll need to see Side Storms later on. This comp will not work forever unless Stats wants to hit a timing attack, which is not really in his nature. And because Dark is playing so safe right now, in fact, even starting to add Spine Crawlers, I think this game will go longer. I think we will likely see that 5th base. 5 gates coming up, though. Let's see exactly how Stats wants to make this happen. A bit of a risk, given how much Dark has scouted to continue to commit to this.
He's even coming in here trying to snipe some pylons
no
as
pylon
he goes. Okay, he's going for another one here. Even with an overcharge, he has enough lings. The Oracle, though, is going to push them away.
Dark has killed so many pylons in this series to unpower gateways. It's been, it looks like kind of one of his focal points is to kind of force pylons to be remade and slow down the production.
Okay, so we got something new out of Dark here. We were kind of expecting this from Dark, just new builds every single game. He is going into faster Infestation Pit this time around. The Hydralisk Den not going to come out, just going to be Ling, Bane, Infestor, or at least early Hive for our Zerg player.
You think this could possibly be Swarm Host? I don't think it will, but it's something he shows. He's going to unpower these gates again. If he unpowers these, this is so annoying.
It's very nice.
Zealot's cleaned up here, drop is shut down, so no damage really done.
Yeah,
let's see.
Hold.
If it's going to be the Swarm Host, he can try to attack the front, fly over these gateways, and hit those units. He does have
a lot of melee upgrades coming in to have those supporting Lings do the extra damage.
Yeah.
Nothing added just yet.
Ling?
No Hive, no Swarm Hosts, no anything.
Ling Infestor is quite common against Oracle play, for example, but not so much in this situation. Obviously, his Charged Zealots will be stopped in their tracks by the Infestors, if that's what he's going to choose. Looks like
he's anything
yeah,
ever.
I think he's probably just... Okay, there they come.
There it is. Okay.
Yeah, I was wondering about this because it's a risk you take when you go Swarm Host here because they need to be protected. That's why all these Lings come across the map. That's why he's trying to unpower the gateways, slow down the production. But you can actually hit an angle where the gateways kind of work against you. The Swarm Hosts move to the north of the gateways, fly the Locusts over them.
We've seen a lot of Zergs really take advantage of this, this position even, where you can get on in there with your Hydras or, Swarm Hosts in this case.
You can also take the Swarm Hosts and fly them at the 6 o'clock base over to hit the natural. So if you get them over to that position, you can fly the Locusts in. That may be the plan here initially with the Swarm Hosts. Draw those units back, then go hit the 3rd base. And try to kind of maintain advantage while you eventually get that creep up, eventually take this 5th base. And Stats is just so well denying right now.
4th base, even. Yeah. Oh, what is going on here? The Swarm Host running into Protoss units. Big mistake by Dark. He reveals his tech and can't even let go of those Locusts right now.
This might actually be, this might not be recoverable from. He is making a bunch of Swarm Hosts. They will have a wave of Locusts, and you will have Speed Banes here as well, but they're not ready yet. Here comes the first wave of Locusts. Obviously, the low-range units, Zealots and Archons will struggle here. The Spine going to buy some time with these Queens with Transfuse. The Banes just barely finished. The Archons are at the back, not at the front. So Zealots will get clean. He needs that next wave of Locusts, though. And I don't think he's going to get it, at least not in time, before critical damage is done.
Well, he's got some more Swarm Hosts popping out. 15 is going to be the total, but is it enough? We got some from the natural, some from the main. All the Locusts not hitting at the same time. And look at how many Archons are on the map. There's 7 of them.
GG.
Stats is going to take the win, shutting down that Swarm Host play, saying, nuh-uh, I'm not tier, I'm not classic, I'm someone new.
And this looked like to be Stats realized you don't have that base yet. What have you been building? I've seen nothing but Lings. I need to attack. The only other options it could have been was maybe Mutalisk, another strong tech on Whirlwind. But he was able to identify very quickly something odd is going on. I've denied your base twice. You clearly don't have a lot of units to defend it. Why don't you have units? What is it? Could probably be either Swarm Hosts or Mutas. I'm going to attack here. When I hit this base, notice his Mothership Core was not with that army because it was back at home just in case. And so he hits this base, destroys it as soon as he's in. And the Swarm Hosts come at the worst possible moment. He's expecting Stats to play passive. He wants to go to that 6 o'clock base to send the Locust to the natural. But he hits the Swarm Host, kills several of them, and then they can never group up, and Dark just dies immediately in that moment.
Yeah, it really highlights part of the reason why Dark really does not like this map, right? The 4th base was shut down for so long. He didn't want to go for the other 4th base location. It's too far away. He didn't go for an all-in because he went for one on the map before. He's trying to, add some variety to his build. So when he goes in a straight-up game on Whirlwind, it looks like his weakest game yet, and that's not looking good as Stats is now 1 game away from taking this finals.
Match point, man. And it is a tense situation here Everyone really predicting Dark to win this one, at least here, of course, in Korea. The fans are cheering with Dark. We have a lot of fans for Stats as well. It's actually quite a large audience tonight, but fan favorite is on his last life now, Valdez.
For sure. So, guys, we're going to take one last commercial break, 5 minutes, and we'll come back with game number 6 of Dark versus Stats.